Complain, complain, complain. I have got so many complaints here. People just not believing in the product that Rich Rodriguez and Ross Hodge, for that matter, are selling. Why is that? Let's go through the complaints and address them. Stick around, baby.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host here, and welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, where we're talking Mountaineer football, a little Mountaineer basketball, and having some fun with you this Sunday. Thank you so much for being here. Off of just a crazy win yesterday for the Mountaineer basketball team. We'll be talking about that, obviously, so we will get to it. But before we do, guys, we have to address the channel sponsor and Mazda. And right now with Mazda, we put that same drive into every detail. And wins do define the moment, putting in the hard work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, because there's more to a Mazda, because there's more to you. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we're talking about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. We are the number one sports podcast network in the country right now, guys. And if you didn't know, now you know, the number one. So it's nice to be number one, but I'm not alone here. And I've got somebody that's going to help me address these complaints from the different people. And a guy that has his own show as well, and that's Carson Fox, man. Welcome to the show, brother, and welcome back.
Paul, always a pleasure to be talking with you. You know, yesterday was one of the best days in Mountaineer athletics in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, if you consider baseball and everything else.
But also, the rifle team beat the number one team in the country in the regular season finals, number one Kentucky. The women's tennis team blanked Duquesne 7-0. The wrestling team, who's now 18th in the country, didn't know that, and then they upended Northern Iowa, beat them for the first time ever, top 15. So there's some positive juju in this Mountaineer athletics program, top to bottom. So I don't understand the hate.
Yeah, I mean, especially wrestling. They've had several guys inside the top. They've got a couple guys inside the top 10 singular, or they have had at points this year. So. Yeah, obviously Cody, who does Locked On Oklahoma State, they're a big wrestling school, and so he forces me to know about it. It's not that I don't want to; it's just like I don't have room for more. All right, so here's what I've done. I've just, I've noticed a lot of maybe an uptick because we're getting closer to spring ball and negativity. There's some positivity too, and I guess but nobody wants to watch a show about the nice comments people are saying. So, I just copy and pasted some negativity on my social media platforms, whether that be X or whether that be YouTube, comments over the last 10 or 12 videos, just looking at different things, basketball and football, but mostly football. We'll get to a couple of basketball too, but obviously there are some people that are hating right now for different reasons, Carson. So are you ready to hear what people have to say?
Yeah, let's dive in, because I've noticed this as well across social media myself. Not so much on my YouTube channel, I would say, but posting in some of the different Facebook groups that are out there with thousands of members. It does seem a little more contentious than I would think in February.
This is from Bluff Creek Bigfoot,
boy,
which is a really cool name, by the way. This is on a video I did yesterday. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to break. I don't know if you call it breaking any news, but a player contacted me and let me know that he was very interested in West Virginia, defensive end out of the portal. Cameron Morgan, I think that's how his first name's pronounced, K3. He obviously left the Virginia Tech. The academic thing didn't work out, and then his academics got straightened out, but he'd already severed the tie with the Virginia Tech, and I think Virginia Tech maybe replaced him. So he's just in the portal, and he's like the number one guy in the portal now, because he's like one of those first go-around type players that just the way it worked out. So obviously for West Virginia, I did a breakdown on his game yesterday and his profile. 4-star coming out of high school. He played his freshman year at Baylor. He had 10 tackles, and 128 snaps. He didn't play a ton, but he was going to be a starter this year for Baylor. And keep in mind they won 7 straight in the year before coming into last year, and was looked upon as one of the sneaky, maybe a Big 12 championship contender. So, for a lot of reasons, I felt really good about him. And I said he was a monster. He said, I would hardly call him a monster. Morgan had 10 tackles last year, 4 were solo, 2 were assisted. Not impressive. We have to do better than this if we are going to win games. Rich Rod has brought in way too many subpar players for Big 12 play, way too many unproven players. Big 12 football is not like some small school or JUCO or a small school from a weak conference. The basketball team loses today as well. Then we have no chance for the dance, and we are going to struggle to get an NIT invite. So real quick, I responded and said, did you watch his high school games? Did you watch his stuff at Baylor? Because he's actually pretty talented. And he said, I'm not talking about high school, more worried about D1 stats, blah, blah, blah. And he said, last thing, he said, at least he is coming from a good D1 school, unlike most of the people we brought in. And so that's kind of where I want to dive in right here, Carson, but I'll let you begin.
Well, oh man,
yeah.
Where do I start, Paul? I mean, did he look at the transfer portal class?
I don't know.
West Virginia had its best high school recruiting class this year of the last 15 years. Got to go back to like 2013 or even the like 2006 class that brought in Noel Devine, West Virginia's last 5-star. And then the transfer portal class, I think according to On3/Rivals, they're 20th in the country. So they did their homework. They worked
top
hard.
3 in the Big 12.
Yes, they did. This is finally the year that I feel like West Virginia has built this foundation that's ready to go contend in the Big 12. So that's where I'd stand. I still think a lot of gelling needs to take place. That's why you have off-season conditioning. That's why you have spring ball. We'll hear more about this program over the summer. So they're starting with a lot of, I think, just young talent, young prospects to equate it to Major League Baseball, a team that might not have a ton of established veterans out there that are going to make you just do a dance or do some backflips out there. But they brought in the nation's leading rusher in Cam Cook. They completely rebuilt this offensive line, which is the end-all be-all, I feel like, for this entire offseason, that's going to be what West Virginia leans on this season. They didn't go out there and have to make a kind of splash at quarterback because you feel really good about the future of Scotty Fox, but you found a player that fits your system at quarterback. And then at some defensive positions, you got some high upside guys alongside some true freshmen that you're really excited about in the secondary. So
what I addressed. Oh, sorry, what you said?
No, that's. I think I don't think this is the kind of year that you go into it like 2018 maybe or 2012 where you think that West Virginia is going to, on paper at least, contend for a Big 12 championship. But I've always said this, that I think West Virginia is so much better as a David than they are as a Goliath. When West Virginia is on the outside looking in, counting out with zero expectations by the national and regional media, that's where West Virginia comes out and surprises some people. And they have a very good start on paper to go maybe 5-0 all to start out the year.
Virginia gives me they won 11 games last year.
Right, and I looked up them this week because, just me being the psychopath that I am. Let's look at all of Virginia's talent that they lost. 2 top starting running backs, 2 starting leading receivers, replacing their quarterback. They're going through the same kind of rebuilding process, Paul. That is the thing in college football now today is if the portal doesn't kill you, the NFL takes your starters. So everybody has to get accustomed to now of this more so like we've seen with the basketball team the last year of rebuilding. And Virginia wasn't this team that just absolutely killed it in retention. So
they still have a lot. It's funny how we both looked at that because you look for what they lost and I went and looked up what they returned.
When I was no. Yeah. What do they return?
A lot. They return a good bit. They return most of their offensive line, which was really good last year. They brought in a really good quarterback, or actually 2 really good quarterbacks. So I don't know if you want to call them really good.
Yeah.
But obviously Bo Pribula and hold on. I got the perfect thing for that. Hold on.
Give me his nosebleed. Yeah, there it is.
What about that? This is one of my best thumbnails ever.
I agree. They
punched me.
No, he didn't get punched. I think we went over this. Like we talked about that next day.
What about this famous moment from last offseason?
Yeah, you guys want to see the depth chart? Oh man, that was
okay. So my response to this guy was, because he had said, "Hope he pans out. At least he's coming from a D1 school, and like a lot of the players we're getting." I said, "Brother, we brought in 14 Power 4 guys. Like that's not nothing."
Right.
Jacob Bradford, LSU. Teron Francis, LSU. Toby Hostrop, Oregon. Navarro comes from Alabama. If you got to count it, I mean, it is what it is, even though he's a kicker. Hood coming in from Illinois. Sapp comes in from Clemson. Caden Luke from Arizona. Hawkins, you mentioned. Devin Vass from K-State. Cam Ball from Mississippi State. Jameer Latimer and Prince Strong, I think, are the ones. So I don't think that's not nothing. Let's move on to another one here, man. Big 12 realist. I'm just not seeing enough proven Big 12 production. High school stars don't mean anything once you hit Saturdays. We need grown men, not projects. So that's just a quick one. But, I mean, it's not like I'm going to sit here and say people are 100% wrong on every one of these. I see a little bit where he's coming from here, right?
Right. But I just don't know what you're looking for because you can't – Will Greers don't grow on trees, and if you go out there and have to go get them, you're competing with so many other schools across the country to do so. So then what's the argument to take them is money. So if we have what West Virginia has in the war chest to go fight with it, I think West Virginia put up an admirable top 20 worth transfer portal class this season. So the way you have to do it is recruit them, develop them, compete for conference championships, put players in the league. West Virginia has not done that enough at a high enough level. So West Virginia is starting where it has been starting these last few years, is having to recycle, rebuild, build a foundation. So this is a foundational year for Coach Rodriguez. He will now be linked to all of these players. You got to pass after last year going 4-8 by having so many Neil Brown recruited players. So many of those have been siphoned off to the transfer portal. Now he's got his guys. This is where he will be, and the staff will be truly evaluated from here on out. And so that's why, like, I understand people are impatient, Paul. And I mean, I'm an impatient person myself. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm tired of year after year of, especially through the Neil Brown era, of just being irrelevant in the grand landscape of college football. But this is where the patience, the rubber meets the road and things have to work out. So.
Agreed. The Wizards staff says, we are losing recruiting battles and calling it upside. Major cope from you, Paul. Big 12 teams are going to lap at this class at the end of this season. And another thing, Rich Rodriguez brought in nothing but Division II, JUCO, and unheralded players last year. Why should we think this year is any different? And, of course, I responded to that. But we can just respond to it on here. Because obviously I don't understand how people keep forgetting this context. It's, I feel like I'm blue in the face. You know what I have to remember? 60% of people that watch YouTube shows, it's just the analytics say, are new every single time, almost every single episode. So you're going to have new eyeballs, even in a niche field like just West Virginia's football, right? And I think it's like, how can you forget that the timing of when he got hired? No high school class, no first portal window. And it's like it would be the exact same thing as if you hired somebody right now. Let's say somebody lost their job. It was a scandal, and you gave somebody the keys, and they had to try to figure out a way to build a team out of what's left out there right now. Like it's what he had to do last year.
Okay, if he's talking about if the commenter is talking about last year's recruiting journey, I can understand where he's coming from. And I talked about this, I feel like a lot on my channel, is that I really do just think that Coach Rodriguez went into the 24 to 25 off season thinking that with what they can make do with what they have, especially on the offensive line. Didn't hit a home run hire on the offensive line coaching in West Virginia's former offensive line coach. now they've brought in an awesome coach in the Godfather and Rick Trickett. So that alone is going to take a weakness from last year's team to a positive in this year's team. Plus, you retained on the offensive line Nick Cray and Landon Livingston. And I mean, high props to Zach Frazier, high props to Wyatt Milam, but according to Rivals, Kevin Brown is a higher rated recruit than those other guys. I mean, after seeing what Kevin Brown's been doing in the weight room, how can you not be absolutely freaking thrilled that this guy is going to be a part of West Virginia's offensive line this upcoming season? I think this offensive line is going to be a strength. And if Indiana proved anything, is that's how you have to build, is from the inside out. And that's how you can maul people. I think West Virginia is going to finish as one of the top teams in rushing in power, especially the Power 5, but maybe even the entire country if you include the G5 schools or academy schools who like to run the ball a lot. So I don't know what people are really looking for. That's just what's a little bit confusing to me from this angle. Like, what much more did you want them to do?
I actually think I have probably a hot take, and people can disagree with me or they can, but I feel like because of we got some breaking news right now too, by the way. But
Larry Knight is taken by Georgia. Yeah.
I'm getting blown up here. But man, that's a tough loss there. But anyways, I'm kind of a hot take here, and we got to go to break. We're way over. I think we overachieved last year for the most part. We won 4 games. We put one more. Probably should have won more. But I mean, if you look at who we beat and how and what we did it with, I mean, if he would have got that team to a bowl game last year, I told people I would have gave him some votes for Coach of the Year. And I wouldn't let him want it, but I would have gave him a couple votes, because that was a tough job last year. And chemo and others, people like when I do that. But obviously, we're just going to go to break on that note. God. Let's talk some basketball next, as the Mountaineers have probably turned it around for the short term, and the long term doesn't look too bad either. West Virginia basketball, has jumped up a bunch of spots in some different categories today. Carson's going to tell you where and how next. Guys, we're talking about Indeed right now. And right now, when it comes to Indeed, if you didn't know, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking it up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. That's right. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like Indeed and yours have 27 hires have been made according to the Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring and spending less time or more time searching and you want to do more time interviewing candidates, well, look, check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check your boxes. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the premium job status for your listing as it deserves. And that's going to be at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard it about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast, where the terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And of course, we can't forget about segment 2. It's cracking a due time. And you know what? I know someone who has one besides me today. And this deuce for you, Carson. Let everybody know where you're from right now.
Sure. Thanks, Paul. Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. Check me out on YouTube, or if you want to engage with me on Twitter at Carson_Fox27.
Engage. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here. Like I said, obviously, we got a little time here. So, let's bring up one more question about football, then we'll get into basketball beyond the rest of the show. Rich Rodriguez is past his prime. He's asking players to stop dancing. He's asking players not to be like he doesn't want them to be. I don't exactly know what he's trying to say with that. Or, it really doesn't make a lot of sense, part of it. But he said, I'll believe it when I see it on the field. Until then, Rich Rod screams mediocrity. This isn't 2006 anymore. 6-6 incoming into perpetuity. I mean, want to talk about just absolute. Sometimes I wonder, because the name is at West Virginia Deserves Better. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't either. That's the thing. And if you don't believe in what he was, what West Virginia accomplished in the early 2000s versus today is still undetermined. And I, again, if he won one game or he won them all last year, he was going to be back for 2026. So given all that West Virginia lost in the transfer portal and the stride, now again, I thought that West Virginia would have been better out the gate than what they proved, especially in that Ohio game. Like you were saying, if West Virginia could have got to a bowl game, I mean, Arizona State was winnable, came down to the very end. Ohio was definitely winnable. But two different teams at two different phases of the year, and West Virginia went through a lot of injuries where I think we're quick to forget that, and then of how much transition on that offensive line just I think held them back. And if that alone, if the offensive line was what it's going to be this upcoming fall, West Virginia would have been a bowl team last year. I don't know if they would have beat those Mountain West schools like Utah, BYU, just a lot of firepower. Even, Arizona State, if they were fully healthy with Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson for that game. But that's why you play the games. I think they overachieved beating Houston on the road, played TCU really tough at home when I didn't expect them to. So I'm feeling good about 2026, again, of what they've now done in the high school recruiting and what they did in the transfer portal and what they were able to retain.
And JUCO. Remember, I do think when it comes down to it, I don't know exactly. I think I want to say it's either 9 or 11 guys from JUCO. I could find out fairly quickly, but it's actually let me.
I can count it out if you want to finish your thought.
Well, of the guys from JUCO, I don't know, man. I feel like there's because that's probably the most underrated of the class, right? For me, like
12.
Okay. I really love the defensive lineman. I love KJ Henson. I really do think he's got some Dante Stills in him. I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but he reminds me a lot of TJ Jackson and Stills. I interviewed TJ Jackson, and I said in the offseason he was going to be a dynamic, defensive lineman that gets a lot of pressure, and he was. And KJ Henson has that same profile, really quick, really, 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 disruptive type player. And I don't think anybody knows who Henson is outside of a hardcore fan right now, but he's a guy, along with, we'll see what Taylor Brown does this year. Obviously, a lot of people expected a lot from him last year, but that's not JUCO. Jalen Thomas is the other guy, right? 6'2", 313 pounds. I think he'll play a lot of nose for us. Wiley on the edge, who's 6'6", 255, is another guy that I like, but I don't know if he'll start. I think he'll get snaps. The two corners, Damon Allen and what's the other corner's name?
Rayshawn
Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Are other ones that I like that I think they brought into play. Obviously, the two receivers, you talked about them last time you were on the show. I think are both going to be guys that get snaps. And Martavis Boswell is going to be a guy that can be possibly your number 2 running back. I mean, so there's a lot of guys in that JUCO list I really think can make an impact. So
I
just
have
to piggyback on your point.
I have whole intention of going to the spring game this year. I think it's going to line up that work doesn't overlap with the spring game. So I'll let you know whenever I'm able to see these guys in person. I think we can all judge on paper and give all our own kind of opinions. And I don't think it's really worth too much until they actually get onto the field and play in a Mountaineer uniform. So once I see what they can do, even in a practice setting, I'll have some thoughts for you whenever.
Final thought of this, and we got to move on to basketball now, is at the end of the day, I think we just have to be accepting. And one of the things in my life in recovery, I always say, is acceptance is an agreement. I don't have to agree with what I hear from people about Rich Rod, but I do have to accept people's stances on him. And there are things that, that you can point to that, hey, look, could he have an Arizona type run here where it's like, maybe you win the league one time and then it's like you have decent years every other year. Sure, maybe it could happen that way. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's 100% sure either way, right? I think that's what a lot of people that are more cynical look at. It's like, well, I mean, what's he done since West Virginia? And building up a place like Jack State is great, but it's easy to be the best when you're coaching at that level and you're as good as Rich Rod, generally speaking. But when you're at the highest level, how good are you? When it gets a lot more premium, you know what I mean? So that's a lot of what I hear from people. I understand those opinions and accept them as far as that goes, but I don't agree. I think that, for whatever reason, the marriage of West Virginia and Rich Rod is really good. And I also think that you can't judge retreads the same way you used to because it's not the same set of circumstances, right? If Bill Snyder came back to K-State during the portal era, he may have been way less successful, or he may have been way more successful, but there's no way to know. All right, basketball time. Obviously you've got the numbers, man. What kind of jumps has West Virginia made in basketball here the last couple hours?
Yeah, so 62 now up to 54th in the net. I think that's their biggest jump.
That's significant.
Now 56th in Ken Palm. They're still, according to Neil Payne of ESPN, looking up the bracketology. I know we're not talking Joe Lenardi, who's the most notable from ESPN, but this was his update as of last night at 8:30. Neil Payne says West Virginia still faces an uphill battle to return to the tournament for the first time since 2023, but its win at UCF on Saturday certainly helps. The model consensus still sets the Mountaineers' chances in an at-large bid around just 25%, and they're barely flirting with the top 60 resume rankings, while only a little better in predictive ranking, but they do have 4 wins against quad 1 foes, that one being yesterday against UCF, and also including that win against Kansas last month. So they will have a chance to control their own destiny by adding more in the coming weeks, and I really couldn't say it better myself, Paul. Still have their second of their road back-to-back at Oklahoma State, at TCU. This will be 2 huge resume boosters for West Virginia. And then, who knows, maybe in a little over a week or 2, or no, 2 weeks from yesterday, against BYU and the Fighting AJ Dybanstas, that would be huge.
Bad news for BYU today as Richie Saunders is out for the season. That would be the equivalent of losing a Brennan Laurent for us, right? Ooh. So that's a big loss for them. Obviously, you don't want to see that happen to anybody, but it does factor in. I think it makes them a lot less dangerous. So maybe they're more beatable specifically now. Now, Debansa is a guy that's going to probably get his. I'm really interested to see how Jasper matches up with him. Maybe they put Lorian on him because of the size. But, if you look at Jeff Borzello, who is, he's his basically at ESPN, in my opinion, he's that guy, right? College Basketball Insider at ESPN. He said UCF blows a 14-point lead in the final 11 to lose to West Virginia at home. Now 3 losses in a row for the Knights and a pair of blowout defeats. Mm-hmm. West Virginia was on the outside reaches of the bubble entering today. This gets them in the discussion. So that's interesting. And then I also have here from Lenardi the bracket update on he puts on his X account. Bubble, last 4 buys, St. Mary's, Texas, Georgia, UCF, last 4 in. USC, UCLA, TCU, Missouri. So TCU, one of the last 4 in.
Yeah.
San Diego State, Ohio State, which is sucky for us.
Yep.
New Mexico, California, and Oklahoma State on the first 4 out. And then the next 4 out beyond that is VCU, Virginia Tech, Seton Hall, and West Virginia. You've got Baylor beyond that. So you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, at least West Virginia teams, Big 12 teams that are all in that realm of, any one of them have the control of their own destiny. Really, I mean, even Baylor, you went out, you control your own destiny.
Yep.
Same thing with TCU. Same thing with Oklahoma State. Same thing with West Virginia. The remaining schedule is interesting, Carson, and I think that's what we need to talk about next. We'll be right back here, guys, with Carson Fox. And, of course, we can't go anywhere without talking about our good friends over at FanDuel. And right now with FanDuel, guys, we like to say $5 is going to make you come holla. And it does. I mean, it does. It makes you come holla. If you ever wanted to see the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any future, not feature, and you'll be able to automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip or 2. Flights, tickets, the whole experience, that's pretty crazy, man. So if you're already looking at the board and thinking, which team can make a deep run? This is the perfect time to lock it in. Now, not only can you pick your cash, but you can also send you to the finals. That's pretty big stuff with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com to get started and use your profit boost on NBA Future and get entered to your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And, of course, we're back here in segment 3 with the great. Well, he's not late.
Yeah, I hope not late.
Carson Fox with
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
Yeah, you need to shorten that up somehow, man.
I know. I think I overthought it whenever I created it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, mine is no better. Mountaineer Paul Talks Football is like, it's just, what are you going to remember? Field of 68 or Fox on Mountaineer Sports or Mountaineer Paul Talks Football?
Well, you got Fox Sports already, so it's like I can't do that. They're
well,
the national.
I mean, yeah.
And then if I went West Virginia Sports, I would think I could have went with that, but
it's just like so.
I didn't want to talk high school, so
yeah. I mean, everybody wants to inject their own individualism, right? Which is why I have Mountaineer Paul as a moniker. Now, it does hold me back in certain respects because, like, I've had opportunities, even at Locked On, to maybe host other channels. And the big worry for them is the Mountaineer Paul thing. Does that, does that disqualify me from hosting other shows?
Yeah, you being Iowa State's guy, like, wouldn't make sense.
But, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation. But, obviously, whenever I took over for Oklahoma State or did BYU content, I did as well or better with both of those than my own channel.
Forces you to do your homework, Paul.
Yeah. So I feel like people, as long as you're passionate about their team, they don't care,
Oh, absolutely.
And and I love sports so much, and I was able to dig into those stories about those other players. I mean, I was able to get excited about it, even though it wasn't West Virginia. Now it's not West Virginia, so it's not the same. But anyways, West Virginia basketball has got a stretch coming up where, I mean, you would have to say, am I lying here? Like, West Virginia is 1,000% in the running here to make a run towards the end of this year.
It's tough. It's tough for me to because I made a claim on my show this past week that I just don't think it's in the cards for West Virginia this year. Now, I mean, given the way that they finished up with that UCF game last night, like, whoa, if West Virginia can play like that against any of its opponents, it can go 6-0 down the stretch here. And if that gets them to the tournament for sure. But again, we got some tough challenges on the road where West Virginia before last night had a lot of challenges on the road for this season. So I hate the cliche, but got to take it just one game at a time. Hopefully you don't have a dramatic injury like BYU just had. And hopefully they're going to have to ride on or huff the way that West Virginia rode Javon Small this past season. And then if his supporting cast can just play to their strengths as best as humanly possible, they can do it. It's not out of the equation. Right before we got on this show, I looked it up because I didn't remember what did West Virginia's last year, where did they finish with their overall record? 19-13.
Yeah.
So that would force West Virginia down the stretch for this regular season to go 3-3 and then lose in the Big 12 tournament, and you match the same record on paper as last
Nowhere
year.
near the same non-conference. And
Correct. So it's hard to compare those two. But if West Virginia could get to say 21 games, maybe we're getting there a little bit closer at least. So it really is. It's going to come down to this last home.
Can I tell you what I dream about? This is what I dream about. And I dream about this. I mean, why not us? Like they're, BYU on this schedule is the only one of these games you look at and think, okay, I actually think we should be favored in that game now at home. Maybe I'm crazy. But they almost should have lost 3 in a row. The Colorado almost beat them. At BYU. They're not playing great right now. Now, in 3 or 4 games, who knows what they'll be doing? They'll probably have adjusted to losing Richie, Saunders. But let's just take this a game at a time and just be logical. Then we'll get out of here. Obviously, Utah, I've learned from Baylor, not to chalk up any game in the conference to a win. Right. I watched Utah push Oklahoma State to the brink not even a week ago in a game where they were in it all the way. But I do think West Virginia matches up well in this game, and overall we should win that game by 6 or 8 points, if not 10. I like West Virginia in that Utah game on Wednesday. So TCU is obviously on the road, followed by Oklahoma State. So it's a West Coast road trip where you're probably going to stay out west for both. They're 3 days apart, Saturday and Tuesday. So you'll probably fly out to Dallas Fort Worth on Friday. Mm-hmm. You'll play the TCU game on Saturday. You'll stay, in that area. Probably, I would imagine you probably bus down or drive down to Oklahoma State from there. I don't know how far Stillwater is from Dallas, so maybe it's a flight. Maybe seems like they're close, but maybe they're not as close as I think. But anyways, either way, however you do it, mm-hmm. You're going to be on the road for 4 days right there. So that's a tough stretch. I'll give you that. You come back home, you play BYU, you go on the road, you play K-State, a team that's probably going to be, in my opinion, they'll probably have given up by then. They're almost ready to give up now.
Yep.
But they can beat us. Don't get me wrong. They could beat us.
Yeah.
Based on how they played us the other game, by the way, it was rough. And especially if they're playing spoiler, by the way, mm-hmm. But and hope God don't get them rallied behind that. And then UCF, which I think we're pretty matched up evenly with at home, though, this time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
To put that all together, I really dream of the world where West Virginia wins out, and it's like, oh, my God, they got hot down the stretch.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about West Virginia as a team that, they kind of flipped and flopped their way through the year. They got hot down the stretch. They caught some breaks, and all of a sudden they won 5 or 6 in a row down the stretch, and now they're one of the hottest teams coming into the Big 12 tournament. I would just love for that to finally happen. We've been 4 coaches in 4 years. Can we just get one? I know that this offense is not performing great, but I'll be damned if they aren't performing when they gotta in the second half of games for whatever reason.
Yeah, they did. They did.
You know what I think it is, by the way? If you watched, West Virginia is in such great condition, this Ross Hodge team. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Rich Rod teams. They take teams into deep waters into the fourth quarter or second half and outwork people, and they just start to score at the end of the game because of the conditioning. I think it's a factor.
But just why do they have to take 3/4 of the game
I
to
don't
get
know.
to that point, Paul?
I think it's mental.
That is the such the frustrating point.
I think it's absolutely mental. Mental.
Yeah. But it's going to come down in this next week. I mean, talking about a Jamie Dixon coach TCU team. I mean, I know it's Coach Huggins isn't there anymore, but how much does he want to beat West Virginia if it's going to result in his program getting to the NCAA tournament versus West Virginia?
By the
He
way,
absolutely
TCU is
savor
super
that.
hot right now.
Yes. So that's what I mean. I think it's really going to come down to that stretch, because if everything plays out the way you're just saying, I think that the Coliseum sells out for BYU. And then if they follow that up with a road win against Kansas State, it sells out once again for that UCF game senior day for a chance to get to the NCAA tournament. I think this fan base is right on the edge of the knife of wanting to buy. That's kind of how I've been all season long, in and out, in and out. And what they give you hope, and then you're back out again. So if they go out there and if things fall their way, say they beat TCU, lose to Oklahoma State, or vice versa, but they're still just kind of floating around there, then beat BYU, I think this fan base is just ready to pop and get behind this team.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, you're feel good about Utah, so let's chalk that up for a win for now, just for argument's sake. Mm-hmm. Let's say you split Oklahoma State and TCU. I don't care which one you want to go, right? So, I mean, right now you've got 16 wins, right? So at some point you're going to get to 10 losses, unfortunately, but that puts you at 17, 18, and 10, right there. Then you got 3 games remaining.
3-0.
So it's really important, I think, for you to somehow, some way get 2 of those. If you can get to 20 wins, I think you're in really good shape. Maybe you need one in the tournament. I don't know, Big 12 tournament, but
yes, you definitely do.
If you win out, then it doesn't matter in the Big 12 tournament. So obviously that's going to be really hard to do, but the schedule is really there for you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough, night in, night out kind of games, but if you can pull it off and get hot, who knows, man? Like we just and who knows what can happen with an honor. He could go on a roll where he's as good for 5 or 6 games again, like he already has. We got to go, man. We're way over here. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Make sure you guys check out Carson Fox over on his show.
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
You got it, Paul.
Yep. And I will see you guys on the next one here as well. Thanks for making this your first listen. Check us out every single day here, 7 days a week, twice a day. And we will talk to you tomorrow, or maybe, I don't know if I'm going to do 2 today, guys. I've got a lot to do, but I'm going to try. Either way, this will be the first day I've taken off a day from making 2 in a while. So I might just take a Sunday for myself and only do 1. But either way, guys, I'll probably be back later either way, knowing me. But I'll see you guys then. For Carson, for myself, 2 Country Roads. We'll see you later.